Alright, so welcome back to another JavaScript tutorial. This is JavaScript tutorial number 21, where we're going to talk about some ES6 syntax. So in ES6 class, I think get introduced to JavaScript. So if you follow my Python tutorial, we'll see that class is a really powerful thing. And as most of you know, that JavaScript is an object-oriented programming OOP language, which means that everything that you wrote in JavaScript essentially it really can represent as an object. So if I write a function, so if I say function hi, let's say console.log hi, what is happening is this is a function object. It is a function, but it's also a function object. And then if I say an array, so var 1, 2, 3, this is really an object, an array object. And even this is literally called object, right? Or dictionary in Python, but object. Alright, so now we're going to talk about class. So in this video, you're going to have opportunity to learn how to create your own object, which in this case is class in JavaScript. So we're gonna use example from MDN documentation. So all the code in here most likely you can find on the MDN's documentation site for class. I will link down in the link to MDN and this blog, my blog, into the description below if you want to check that out. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started by creating a new class. So to create a new class, just like Python, we're going to say class. And then here, we'll say class name. I'm just going to call this Polygon, since we're going to do something with geometry. Notice that we don't have parentheses like in Python. And then we use curly braces instead of the colon. Okay, so now let's see about, So now we create a new class called Polygon. So just to recap, to create a class, you can simply use class keyword, space, then your class name, then your curly braces. Alright, so now let's actually put something into the curly braces. So right now it's empty. So if I execute this using node, so let me make this bigger. So if I execute this using node, so node class.js, you can see nothing really happened because, well, we don't have anything in this class and we don't even have an instance for this class, which we will explain later. Alright, so now let's go ahead and code some function there, some method. So we will start, if it not always, we'll start with what we call a constructor. We'll start with a constructor function. So this constructor, you can think as what will happen immediately once a new instance have been created. So this will always occur instantly once a new instance has been created. And then in this parenthesis, what we can think is the parameter I needed to create this given class, in this case a polygon. So what we need? Well, we really need name. What name for this polygon? So what kind of shape? Is it rectangle, square, width, and height? Right. All right. In here, what I will say is now what we can say is we're actually going to store some variable. So in order to use this variable, so as you know, these are all local variable. So which given that since this is local, if I try to say console.log, well, if I try to console.log name here, it won't work, which I expect to see an undefined here. Okay. Well, I guess I cannot console.log name outside of a method. But really, name is not really usable. This is just a local function, I think, local variable. So what we can do is actually store this using this. This is similar to self. what this does is this refer to the instance that's going to created for this class itself. This is basically where this means itself. So when we use itself, this we can use this keyword. You can imagine this as a dictionary, and it's available accessing within this class of instance. In here, we can say this name equals name, this width equals width, this height equals height. So we use dot notation to assign some variable to parameter. You can think as this as a really a object where this is a key and then this is a value. Alright, so this is our constructor function or method. Now let's actually create something that does a little bit something with this. So with what information do we have? So essentially what we can say is area. So let's create a method called area. Essentially what area is going to have is it's going to calculate the area. So how can we do that? Well, as a polygon to calculate area should be this dot width. So it should be width times height, right? This is how an area should be calculated for a polygon most likely. Well, by the way, polygon in this case is either square or rectangle. So we're not talking about other quadrilateral stuff. But wait, actually, it will use for everything. Yeah, it will use for every polygon shape. So now what we can say is return this dot width times this dot height. So now, since we stored this into this keyword, now we can use this throughout this entire class. Alright, so now we created a new method called area. Basically, it's going to calculate the area. So the final method we're going to create is, let's call it is same shape. So basically what will happen is it's going to take a same area. Let's just call this a same area. So what's going to happen is this going to take a shape. Is this actually going to take an area shape? Let's just say shape. Well, technically it's this area for a shape. This is basically going to compare an area substitute by user and compare whether it has same area or not. So what we can do now is first is to get what the area for this shape is. So you can use this dot area, which is going to return a number. And in here we can return shape treble equals to this dot area. So we can also refer a method using this. So this basically can get what's happening here, which is this dot width times this dot height, and then it's going to compare whether it has the same area or not. Alright, so now if I run this using Node, by the way, Node is just a runtime environment. We'll talk about that when we get to full stack JavaScript. So if we run this, we see absolutely nothing. Not because we don't have a console.log set up. We don't have a console.log set up, and then we don't have a new instance of this class. So what we will do now is actually create a new instance of this class. So how to create a new instance? Well, we can use the new keyword in JavaScript. So I'm not going to assign to a variable. So I'm just going to say in here we'll say new polygon, and then in here we will substitute three parameter, name, width, height. In here I would just say square. Let's just say rectangle. How about that? Rectangle 5 and 5, and then I want to, so we can use dot notation to access the different methods available in this class. And then so what happening here is basically we'll create a new instance of this polygon class, and then we can use dot area, which we hope to show which we hope will print out is 5 times 6, which is 30. So let's take a look with this print out 30. And now, indeed, it print out 30. Alright, so that was pretty cool. This is basically how class works. And then if you want to try this is same area method, and then we're going to substitute a custom area. So we're going to substitute, let's say 30. So what I expect to see is true. And indeed, it returns true. But if I say something like 40, and I see false. So basically, this is how to create a new instance and how to use different method within within an instance. How to use different method, so like in the same area, and you can create a new method such a parameter, and then get the parameter of this polygon. All right, now for the final topic of today, which I know today is kind of short because I covered everything together. By the way, everything I taught here is not exactly everything, since JavaScript also had like static method, which I didn't talk about because that's like we will rarely use that. Because I talk about class, so we have ES6, like remembered, so we can use it in React. Alright, so for the final thing, we're going to talk about inheritance. Inheritance, what's happening is we're not going to create a brand new class. So what I want to do now is I want to create a square class. You can imagine that, okay, square class is indeed a kind of like the subset of a Polygon class. So what we can say is we can create a new class called square, but instead of just creating a brand new class from scratch, what we're going to do is say extend Polygon. So what's happening here is to basically extend whatever it has. So you're gonna go out, you can imagine that we basically copy and then paste it here somehow. But not exactly. So it has everything it has. So it has same constructor function. Well, actually we're gonna talk about constructor, but it has like all the methods that it have in here. So it have access to area and a same area method we define. So now let's create constructor function. You will say, hey, why do we still need constructor function? Well, it turns out that, to be honest, square do you need really to put two like width and height? No. Square is, by definition, square have the same width and same height. So what we can say is constructor, and it's going to take in a variable called side, and then what's going to happen here is we're going to use a super function. What this is going to do is it's going to initialize this new instance of the square class to the Polygon constructor function. So basically it's going to pair them up together. And then super, what's going to happen is, as you can see now, it has three parameters here. It's a name, width, height. That was we need to provide. And then in here, what I can say is a square, width is side, height is also side. And now we're basically done. So if I try to create a new square class, so let me go create a variable called square equals new square, right? It's going to have a side. So let's just say 5. And then I want to get the area for the square. Let's take a look. What will we get? And now we got 25. So indeed, it does inherit, and everything looks good. And then you can also provide some custom property. So what we can say here is you can say is square. So basically, this is going to take in. Okay, this basically does something that's completely not geometry. It's basically going to, okay, you know what, forget about it. I'm not going to create a square class, but you can create some other kind of class, some other kind of method within the square class. So this is only accessible within the square class, but not Polygon class. All right. So that's everything I want to talk about class. It doesn't take really long. For now, just like 15 minutes. But I hope you learned what is class and basic of class. Again, I will link my blog and MDN's documentation to description below if you want to check it out. I also create a new Discord channel if you would like to join, which is linked into description down below. I don't expect many people to join, but if you want to, feel free to join. And then you can DM me on Discord, and I will try best to help you with any programming questions you might have within the web development. Alright, so thanks for watching, stay safe, and have a nice day.